Have you told your friends that you see ghosts?
Oh, absolutely not.
Gina Rodriguez returns in Not Dead Yet.
I'm back, baby!
Who is up?
Oh, she's the obituary writer.
And Brad Garrett joins the brilliant ensemble cast.
Titan, Maverick, Titan of all Mavericks. These are all words used to describe me.
Not Dead Yet. Season premiere. Tonight, 8:30, 7:30 Central on ABC. And stream on Hulu.
Hey everybody, I recorded this interview way back when I was at Fantastic Fest, and it is an interview with Jim Hosking and David Wike, who are the team behind An Evening with Beverly Luff Lin, which was one of my favorite films from Fantastic Fest. I didn't get to actually see it screen in the theater. I had to watch a screener copy, but even then, the movie was just such a charming, fun, strange movie, and I held off on releasing this one because the movie is actually coming out for a theatrical release on October 19th, so next weekend. So make some time to go see it. It's just such a weird, unique movie. I wish I could really get into it, but it's a tough one to discuss, but it's a really funny, strange film from the guy who brought you Greasy Strangler. It's got this very very Monty Python, Tim and Eric energy of just craziness. So if that's the type of stuff that you love, if you loved Greasy Strangler, then go check this out. If you love movies that are just the right level of absurdist while still maintaining beautiful characters that grow and mature, then this is the movie for you. So take some time and go check it out. But first, sit down and listen to the interview with Jim and David, who were the team behind the movie. All right, Horror Movie Night listeners, real quick, if I sound a little different, it's because I had tonsillitis literally until this morning, which is fitting because I spoke like Craig Robinson in the movie that we're about to discuss for the last 48 hours.
Well, hopefully you're not contagious.
No. We're good. So I'm sitting here with Jim and Dave, the guys behind the movie An Evening with Beverly Luff Lin.
Luff Lin.
Luff Lin.
That's all right.
It's all about pronunciation.
It's all right now.
So this movie actually, I had yet to see Greasy Strangler. I've seen so much about it, but this movie blew me the fuck away when I watched it. It is, I was trying to explain it to a coworker, and I told them that it reminded me of if John Waters had written Napoleon Dynamite and then had Wes Anderson direct it for him. Like, it's just this weird melding of all these different styles and creating your own really unique thing. Now, you've been directing for a while. Who were some of your inspirations leading into your career?
Well, I mean, I try not to be sort of too consciously inspired by anybody, I guess. But I mean, I'm probably inspired a lot by sort of some of like Mike Leigh's early plays for the BBC, and like if you think of Nuts in May, you think of the comedy in that. Like with Mel and I, we were talking about that just now. That's inspiring to me. I'm inspired by loads of stuff. I mean, of course, like I like David Lynch, or I like Fassbinder, or I like Aki Kaurismäki, but I love Woody Allen, and I love old films. I love Billy Wilder's films. I mean, I like Hal Ashby, Altman. I try not to steal anything. I mean, like the people that you mentioned, I'm not really familiar with a lot of John Waters' films. I mean, I've seen like probably the most commercial ones. I've seen crybaby and serial mom. Wes Anderson's not really my thing. And who's the other one? Napoleon Dynamite. Yeah. I mean, I suppose there's a similarity in kind of very distinctive kind of styling, and maybe there's some awkwardness and stuff there.
I was going to say, I think for me it was the awkwardness of a lot of the sequences definitely hit my memory waves a little bit. In that
I feel
sense.
that's like quite a lot of that comes from, like when I talk about Mike Leigh and stuff, there's like a lot of British drama and comedy revolves around people sort of feeling down on their luck, or feeling frustrated, or feeling like life is conspiring against them. You know, we don't expect things to sort of turn out well. So yeah, I would say that. But I mean, for us, I guess there is a difference between the sort of, with the direction, the styling of a film, and then with the script, the sort of writing of a film. Although there's a lot of it is in the script, and I think we try not to be actively inspired by anything really.
Yeah. It's just a sensibility of what you're interested in, what excites you when you discover a character, and writing with somebody is also. I'd never really done much of it before I wrote with Jim, and I never thought I could, but it was actually much better than writing alone, because you end up inspiring each other, but you take a lot for granted when it works well, because when it doesn't work, you can't explain it away. You can't just go, well, why don't we? It just is dead. There's nothing there in the life of the character. You're speaking totally different.
I think that
languages.
What we both enjoy, and what's definitely in the film is that we are into sort of eccentric characters, like in life as well as in films, and we like I think we like eccentric humour, but we also really like genuine emotion and sincerity, and it's probably where those two things meet. That's kind of where the film feels like it's got maybe a bit of a difference to a lot of other stuff that's either trying to be, kind of crazy and wacky and funny, or it's trying to be really sincere. And this is just, it's just doing its own thing, but I'm kind of attempting to analyse it.
I was going to say, it's definitely its own universe in a very cool kind of way. Like, the villain in this movie comes off as cartoony as like a comic book villain at times, and that, to me, is what I really found fun about it, is that there's these moments that are heartbreakingly awkward and real, and then there's this insane goofiness that happens as well, and it's playing off those two styles. How did you guys write this together? I'm always interested in the writing style of like a team. Were you guys in a room together? I know you're from two different places, or was it a lot of emailing back and forth, and one person was in charge of the one element and another person was in charge of another?
No, we did a lot of writing together. I would say that we really wrote the script together in the same room, and it would have been in a series of like 2 weeks. Get together again like a month and a half later or something. 2 weeks. I would come to LA, or I'd come to, like, Dave was living in LA, and then he was living in New York, and then I think we went to the woods like near New York and spent a couple of weeks there, like really breaking the back of it. And obviously teams like write in a totally different way. Like I've written a lot of stuff with the guy who I wrote The Greasy Strangle with, and we, even though we live in the same city, we generally don't ever sit down together and write together. We do it separately. And with Dave and me,
we work really well physically in the same room. Usually there's like a bunch of exchanges that can get done on the email, and I'm not very technically savvy with sort of the technology that makes that easy.
But it feels too dry, doesn't it? It's like you've got to rip.
Yeah. So we do. I like to get very physically, like.
Yeah, he kind of prowls around, and I'm sat at the keyboard. But the writing is an equal. But I guess Dave was an actor, and he likes to sort of like, he likes to stride around and get quite physical and sort of,
Well, it's just sort of like get up. It's a combo of both, but it's to really get in there and Jim gets very aggressive about making sure we're not letting something go that's not that's fine. No, it's not fine. Let's make it better. And my version of
that's
getting
funny,
into
because I think that you're like that too.
Yeah, no, but it works. But there's no eggshells. It's more like my version of that is to get up and sort of like walk around and and feel, just sort of start feeling something. Get into some kind of. We had that with the very end. We weren't satisfied with it originally, and there's this scene where
we wrote a number of different endings.
Yeah, we had a scene where at the very end we were trying to figure out the Luff Lin speech, and then Colin is doing this whole thing about the beneath the ice and has this sort of, and we had this like crazy sort of like jam where we both started sort of shouting these.
Yeah, but
lines.
you were recording these little voice messages on your iPhone, and like sending them like it was like I'm trapped under the ice. But he was doing it in this sort of strange like English. It was like a very sort of precise English accent from like it felt like it was from the sort of turn of the 19th into the 20th century. This sort of quite distinguished gentleman who was genuinely trapped under the ice, but he was still quite unflappable, stiff upper lip.
But that kind of thing, didn't come from sitting around putting a lot of post-its up or having conversations. It became a kind of cathartic session.
I've never done anything like that. That sort of thing where people chuck a load of stuff up on a wall and move things around or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
Can't be bothered.
It gives the vibe of a lot of almost a sketch comedy background, or like a very like manic. In a way that it's nothing like this, but it reminds me a lot of when I read about how like the Muppets were written, and it was just anarchy in the studio, just like throwing anything at a wall, and there's no such thing as a bad idea, but we're going to reject a lot of these ideas. Like that kind of attitude is what it sounds like you're presenting, of just this excitement to create in this area.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say it's like that though. It's more specific than that. I think it's more like I don't think that we would sit around and like chuck tons of different ideas. Like often it's about just thinking like what would I take that, even though it's an absurd world in a way or whatever else, I take it all totally seriously when I'm writing it, and so does Dave. And it's like, what would this person do? And as much as anyone else might think it's like it's sort of willfully bizarre or this or that, that's not how we approach it. And it's like, if I wanted to write a bizarre film, I could fucking write one that was like a million times more bizarre than this. That's not the intention with this movie. Yeah. The intention with it is to try to create a film with like really, interesting, distinctive characters and a lot of heart. And
there's nothing that the characters do that's not true to their character in this movie. Which
and
I
in
think
this
is
case,
a statement.
Once those characters, and that's why it was so weird when we first started writing it, when we were just riffing back and forth with no idea where it was going. Once those characters came to life, they informed us. I mean, it sounds sort of hokey, but it really informs, what's authentic. And they felt very three-dimensional, all of them. And so we didn't know where Colin was from. We knew his emotional sort of dark, whatever his system, how his solar plexus. And when it felt cheap or silly, then it would, then we would know it. It would come off. And that's why it was ironic when the film was finally cast and everyone came together. There wasn't people necessarily coming in with like a completely different interpretation of the script or what this thing was about. Everyone kind of got on relatively the same page very quickly because they could see that in the tone of it. This wasn't a goof fest.
Was there anyone, when you were writing this, because it feels like a lot of the characters are almost custom made for the actors that played it, did you have any of these people in mind while writing it, or was this just serendipity that the best people for the job ended up being there?
Well, I think you can have it's to me it's kind of like when you read a book and you start visualizing somebody and they're a bit of a sort of composite of various people that you may know in real life or actors or whatever. And of course you have actors float through your consciousness as you're writing a script. And I mean, for example, we both love Aubrey Plaza and you think, oh, it'd be fascinating Aubrey were to do this, but you also kind of don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, sort of thing. But I mean, yeah, we definitely had people.
No, there was no one that really was. There a lot of people. I've done that recently. We both wrote another script actually, where we actually thought of specific actors. Those who were writing.
Yeah, we titled the script with their names.
Their actual real names.
Yeah.
Which is
yeah.
we still think it's hysterical.
Yeah.
But this one, it was just the characters were before the actors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I got to wrap it up. I just got the one last question from Cam out there. So,
all right.
Where can people see this movie? I mean, obviously I'm at Fantastic Fest, but I believe
Comes out
October
the 19th.
Okay.
I think it's sort of a splurge. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So October 19th, guys, go and check out the movie. Thank you guys so much for sitting down and chatting with me.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network. You're listening to the Geekscape Network.